Why does God keep you alive after 60? My friend, this is not a question of age, but a question of divine intention. When you wake up each morning, when you open your eyes and see the sunlight touching your face, that is not by accident. That is the voice of God saying, I still have something for you to do. Every breath you take beyond 60 is a declaration that your purpose has not ended. It means the hand of God is still upon you. It means you are not finished. You are being refined. You may look at your hands and see wrinkles. You may feel the slowing of your body. But let me tell you something. God never measures your usefulness by your youth. He measures it by your willingness. You are not alive today because of luck or because medicine kept you here. You are alive because God still has a purpose for you that no one else can fulfill. The reason God keeps you alive after 60 is because He still wants to speak through you, bless through you, love through you, and show His power through your story. So many people, when they grow older, begin to believe that life is behind them. They say, my strength is gone. My best days are over. But God looks at you and says, no, I am not finished with you yet. God keeps you alive after 60 because He wants to use your wisdom, your scars, your battles, your victories, your pain, your experience to bless others who are still learning how to walk with Him. You carry something sacred within you, something that was not meant to die when your youth faded. God keeps you because you are a vessel of His timeless truth. There are people who needed you to survive. There are souls that would never know strength if you had given up. You see, when you are young, you live by energy. But when you are older, you live by wisdom. And God uses the wisdom of those who have walked long with Him to shape the future of those who are still finding their way. You are a teacher now. You are a carrier of the fire of experience. God does not discard vessels that have carried His light for decades. He refines them so the light burns even brighter. Think of it, every hardship you endured, every prayer you whispered in the dark, every tear you shed when no one was watching, all of it was shaping your spirit. It was God preparing you for a time like this. God keeps you alive after 60 because He wants you to tell the world that He is faithful. You are a living testimony that even after storms, even after failures, even after betrayals, even after loss, God still sustains. When you were young, you ran ahead, you dreamed, you built, you planned. But now, after 60, God slows you down, not because He has abandoned you, but because He wants you to listen more deeply. He wants to reveal Himself to you in quietness. The young chase success, the mature seek meaning. And meaning is where God speaks. You are alive because your spirit has reached a level where God can now trust you with deeper truth. He has seen you rise and fall, and yet you still bow before Him. That kind of faith cannot be taught. It is forged through years. That's why He keeps you. Do you know what pleases God most? A heart that still beats for Him after all these years. Many people start with fire, but they lose their flame along the way. Yet here you are, still talking to God, still seeking His voice, still thanking Him for the simple things. That is why you are still alive, because your relationship with God has matured beyond noise and pride. It has become pure, silent love. God keeps alive the ones who know how to walk humbly with Him, for they are His witnesses in a noisy world. Maybe you have wondered, why am I still here when so many of my friends have gone? God's timing is perfect. Some He calls early, others He keeps longer, not as a punishment, but as purpose. He has left you as a lamp for your family, as a voice of reason for the younger generation, as a guardian of spiritual wisdom in your home. Your survival is not coincidence. It is divine preservation. God keeps those whom He still needs to use. The world may not notice you anymore. Society often celebrates youth and forgets the elderly. But God's kingdom is not like the world. In the world, people retire at 60. In God's plan, you are fired at 60. Your spirit is renewed. Your assignment is refined. You are called to speak truth that no one else dares to speak. You are called to walk in patience when others are restless. You are called to demonstrate peace when others panic. God keeps you alive to remind the world that true strength is not in muscle, but in faith. There's someone watching you right now, your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors. They see how you face each day. They see that you still give thanks, that you still smile, that you still help others even when you have your own needs. You are preaching with your life. You are teaching without words. That is why God keeps you alive. Because your very presence is ministry. Your consistency is faith in motion. And let me tell you, age does not limit your blessing, it expands it. The older you become, the more space God has to show His faithfulness. You have seen the seasons change, and yet you have not been consumed. You have seen storms pass, and yet you are still standing. That alone makes you a miracle. God keeps you alive because you are a walking revelation of His power to sustain. Some people think their worth diminishes after 60. But in truth, that is when your spirit becomes most valuable, because now you have learned what truly matters. You no longer chase approval. You no longer bow to fear. You no longer measure your success by what people say. You have found peace in God, and that peace is what others are desperately searching for. God keeps you because you are now ready to be a guide. Your gray hair is not a sign of decline. It is a crown of endurance. Each line on your face tells a story of how God delivered you. Each ache in your body is a reminder of how He carried you. God is glorified in your survival. He is glorified in your resilience. When the young see that you are still strong in faith, despite the passage of time, they learn what it means to truly walk with God. You are a lighthouse for those lost in the fog of modern life. Think about this. How many times could death have taken you? How many close calls? How many hospital visits? How many nights you thought you wouldn't see the morning? Yet here you are. That is not chance, that is preservation. God looked at you and said, "Not yet. My work in you is not complete." So stop asking why you are still here and start asking, what more does God want to do through me? God does not count your years. He counts your purpose. If there is still someone who needs your counsel, if there is still a heart that needs your forgiveness, if there is still a soul that needs your prayer, then your mission is not done. You may not run as fast as before, But your prayer can reach farther than your feet ever could. Your words can touch hearts your hands can no longer hold. Your wisdom can heal wounds your eyes may never see. God keeps you alive because the world still needs what He planted in you. When you were younger, your strength carried you. Now, God carries you. When you were younger, you believed you could do everything. Now, you know only God can. That humility is what gives your life depth and beauty. You have reached an age where pride no longer rules, and that makes you truly powerful in spirit. God keeps those who have learned to depend fully on Him, because they are the pillars that uphold the faith of generations. Every day you live beyond 60 is a reward of grace. You have walked through fire and come out refined. You have faced loss but never lost hope. You have buried dreams but found peace in God's will. And that is the secret of spiritual maturity. To still trust when things no longer make sense. God keeps alive those whose faith can no longer be shaken by circumstances. You see, the younger ones often pray for miracles, but you are the miracle. You are proof that time does not defeat those who trust in God. You are proof that faith can outlast pain and love can outlive sorrow. You are proof that the Spirit does not grow old. Your life is the evidence of God's promise that those who lean on Him shall be renewed day by day. And do not think your days are small. Even if you cannot travel, even if you cannot do what you once did, your prayer still moves mountains. Your quiet presence still changes atmospheres. When you bless someone, God listens. When you intercede for your family, God acts. You are a spiritual anchor for your bloodline. Your survival keeps doors open for those who come after you. You are not just living. You are covering your lineage under God's favor. Maybe you feel forgotten. Maybe no one thanks you anymore. But heaven knows your name. God watches every act of kindness you still perform. Every word of encouragement you speak. Every time you lift someone's spirit when you could have stayed silent. These small things are great in His eyes. God keeps you because you are still sowing seeds of eternity, even when no one notices. At 60 and beyond, you are not meant to fade. You are meant to shine differently. The light of your youth burns bright and fast. The light of your maturity burns steady and deep. It comforts rather than dazzles. It warms rather than blinds. God keeps that kind of light burning because the world needs it. In an age of noise and chaos, you carry peace. In an age of pride and confusion, you carry clarity. You are a reminder that stillness is not weakness, it is strength refined by time. Do not envy the young. Many of them are lost in pursuit of things that do not last. You have something they do not have, perspective. You have seen enough to know that wealth without peace is nothing, that success without purpose is empty. God keeps you alive to remind the world of eternal truths that never age. You are a living sermon. Your wrinkles are sacred words written by time. When you reach the later years of your life, you begin to see what most people cannot see. You start to notice the invisible hand of God that has been guiding you through every decade, through every joy and every heartbreak. And when you look back, you realize that nothing was random. Every event, every person, every delay was part of the divine design. You were never just surviving time. You were being shaped for a season that only maturity could understand. God keeps you alive after 60 because now your eyes are clear enough to see what truly matters, and your heart is deep enough to hold what others cannot yet comprehend. In your youth, you wanted to change the world. You fought, you worked, you built, you dreamed. But now, in this sacred stage of life, God invites you to change something greater. Your inner world, He calls you to peace. He calls you to stillness. He calls you to influence not through speed, but through spiritual presence. The older you become, the closer you get to the essence of who you were created to be, a soul aligned with God, not distracted by the noise of the world. That is why you are still here, because God wants the world to see what peace looks like in human form. Peace that only comes from decades of walking with Him. You are not here by accident. You are not a leftover of time. You are a masterpiece in progress. Think of a tree planted long ago. When it was young, it grew fast and wild, stretching its branches in every direction. But as it aged, its roots went deeper and its fruit grew sweeter. The same is true of you. The fruit of your life, the patience, the compassion, the calm wisdom, could not have existed when you were young. God had to let you live long enough for your spirit to ripen. He keeps you alive because your fruit is needed now more than ever. You see, the world is rushing, spinning, drowning in restlessness. People chase money, fame, pleasure, power, but they have no peace. And then they meet you, a person who has lived long enough to know that all of that fades. Your calmness speaks louder than their ambition. Your gratitude convicts their complaints. Your humility corrects their arrogance. You are the silent sermon of God's truth. That is why He keeps you alive, to be a mirror of His eternal nature in a generation that has forgotten what holiness looks like. There is a sacred authority that only comes with age. You cannot buy it. You cannot fake it. It comes from the decades of talking to God when no one was listening, from the nights of pain that drove you to prayer, from the disappointments that purified your faith. When you speak now, your words carry weight because they come from experience with God. That is what the world needs. That is what families need. That is what children need. A voice that has walked through life's fire and still speaks of God's goodness. Do not waste these years worrying about what you can no longer do. Rejoice in what you can now see. You can see through deception. You can see through pretense. You can discern truth from lies because you have lived through enough to know what is real. That is why God keeps you, because He needs witnesses who have lived long enough to confirm that His promises are true. He needs elders who can say with conviction, I have seen the goodness of God in the land of the living. The strength of your youth built your life, but the wisdom of your age will bless generations. God has kept you alive, not to merely exist, but to pour out what He has poured into you. Every story you carry, every lesson you learned through pain, every revelation you received in silence, it is all meant to be given. You are a vessel of divine memory. When you speak, you remind others that God never fails, that He provides, that He restores, that He heals, that He remembers those who remember Him. Do not believe the lie that you are finished. The truth is, you are entering the most impactful stage of your purpose. God saves the deepest assignments for those who have been seasoned by time. The young may carry strength, but the wise carry vision. God does not need your speed now. He needs your stability. He does not need your energy. He needs your endurance. You have become like the mountain that does not move when storms come. Your faith is no longer a flame. It is a foundation. And on that foundation, others will stand. Sometimes, when you sit alone and the house is quiet, you may wonder if your life still matters. Listen closely, it does. Every time you pray, the heavens take notice. Every time you thank God for another day, it shifts the atmosphere. Every time you speak life over your children or whisper blessings over those you love, invisible forces move. You may not see it, but your words still carry power. God keeps your voice alive because your prayers still build walls of protection around those you love. And even if your body feels weak, your spirit is strong. God measures you not by physical strength, but by spiritual endurance. When others see wrinkles, God sees warriors. When others see aging, God sees authority. You have authority in prayer, authority in faith, authority in silence. You can change the course of your family's destiny by one sincere conversation with God. That is why He keeps you. Because your intercession still matters. You are like the roots of a tree. You may not be visible, but everything above you stands because you are still there. The family you built, the people you mentored, the kindness you gave, they are all growing because of you. Without roots, trees fall. Without elders, families crumble. Without wisdom, nations lose their way. God keeps you alive after 60 because your presence keeps balance in the spiritual structure of those around you. You are not a background character. You are the foundation. And let me tell you something else. Age is not decline, it is revelation. The older you get, the more clearly you can see the pattern of God's hand weaving through your years. You start to realize that even your mistakes had a purpose. The paths you thought were detours were divine direction. The people who left you were part of God's pruning process. The things you lost made space for what truly matters. God lets you live long enough to see how beautifully He has written your story. After 60, God draws you closer to Himself. The noise of the world begins to fade, and the voice of eternity grows louder. You begin to crave peace over pleasure, depth over drama, truth over attention. That is not boredom. That is awakening. Your soul is detaching from the temporary and preparing for the eternal. You are not dying, you are transforming. God keeps you alive to taste the sweetness of divine nearness before you return to Him. He wants you to experience what it feels like to walk earth as one whose heart already belongs to eternity. You are not forgotten. You are favored. The breath that fills your lungs today is not wasted. It is sacred air chosen for you by God Himself. Every beat of your heart is permission from heaven saying, continue. I still delight in your life. When others slow down, you rise in spirit. When others complain about aging, you bless God for wisdom. That difference, that gratitude, is what separates those who merely exist from those who live with purpose. and do not fear the future. God, who carried you through childhood, youth, and middle age, will not abandon you now. He does not invest decades of care in you only to discard you at the end. No, He finishes what He starts. And when God keeps someone alive, it is because they are still part of His unfolding plan. The divine writer has not yet written the last line of your story. There is still a chapter to be lived, one filled with peace, influence, and spiritual fulfillment. The world may measure life by years, but God measures it by impact. You may not have the speed to run anymore, but you have the insight to lead. You may not hold the tools, but you hold the truth. The time you live in now is not a sunset. It is a sunrise for your spirit. Because now your faith is pure, stripped of pride, and filled with understanding. God keeps you to shine as proof that life lived with Him never fades. It only grows deeper. There is a mystery in longevity that few understand. When God extends your days, it is not merely to let you exist longer on the earth. It is to let your spirit ripen for eternity. The later years of your life are not wasted years. They are sacred years. They are the time when your spirit learns to listen more than it speaks. When you begin to understand that every moment of breath is a classroom where God is still teaching you. If you are still here, it is because God still finds joy in your presence on this earth. It is because your life still carries divine fragrance that blesses others without you even realizing it. After 60, life becomes more about essence than activity. You may not do as much, but who you have become speaks louder than anything you could ever do. The world measures life by productivity, but God measures it by purity. By the purity of your heart, by the sincerity of your gratitude, by the gentleness of your spirit. You have reached a point where you no longer chase noise. You embody peace. That is why God keeps you alive. Because this world still needs the quiet strength that you carry. You are not in the way of the younger generation. You are their way forward. You are the silent wisdom that gives shape to their dreams. There is a beauty that comes only with age. A beauty that cannot be painted or manufactured. It is the glow of peace that shines from someone who has walked through both storms and sunlight, who has seen both failure and restoration, and still smiles. That glow is not cosmetic, it is divine. It is the light of a soul that has wrestled with pain and found rest in God's will. That light is precious, and that is why God keeps you alive. To illuminate others who are still stumbling in darkness. You have entered the age where your greatest victories are invisible. They are not the kind that make headlines or earn applause. They are victories of patience, victories of forgiveness, victories of quiet endurance. You win when you let go of bitterness. You win when you stop explaining yourself to people who will never understand. You win when you wake up each morning and say, God, thank you for another chance to see your mercy. These are not small victories. They are eternal ones. God keeps alive those who have learned how to win in silence. You may not realize it, but your spirit carries authority now. When you pray, your words carry more weight because they come from decades of walking through fire with God. When you bless someone, heaven listens. When you forgive someone, chains break. You have become a channel of divine strength because you have been refined by time. God keeps you alive because He can now trust you with deeper influence, the kind that transforms without needing attention. Do not fear slowing down. Slowing down is not the same as stopping. It is the rhythm of divine wisdom. When God slows your body, He awakens your spirit. He gives you time to notice what others overlook. The birds in the morning, the quiet laughter of children, the peace of a calm evening. In these small moments, God whispers eternal truths. You have reached the stage where He speaks to you not through thunder, but through stillness. You are being drawn closer, not farther. You are being prepared, not finished. Your later years are God's masterpiece of patience and grace. You are the proof that faith is not just for the young and hopeful. It is for the aged and faithful. When you continue to believe, even when you have seen so much pain, your faith becomes sacred fire. It warms others. It restores balance to a generation that has forgotten how to trust. You are the living memory of God's goodness, and that memory is a shield for those who come after you. That is why you are still here, because your very existence keeps the flame of remembrance alive. Sometimes God keeps you alive because someone you love still needs your prayer. Maybe there is a child who has lost their way, or a family member whose heart has grown cold. God keeps you as their covering, their shield in the unseen realm. Your prayer is the bridge between their chaos and God's mercy. You may not even know it, but your words, your faith, your very presence are protecting leaves around you. God uses the faithful hearts of elders as anchors for generations. And when you look at yourself and think, I am weak, know this: your weakness is God's strength on display. You no longer have to prove anything. You no longer have to earn anyone's validation. You are already validated by time and by faith. The same God who sustained you through the storms of youth will sustain you through the calm of maturity. He does not discard those who have served Him. He crowns them with purpose in their later years. After 60, your focus shifts from achievement to alignment. It's no longer about how much you can do, but how deeply you can walk with God. Your pace may slow, but your depth increases. You start to understand that every sunrise is a sermon, every breath is a blessing, and every heartbeat is a reminder that God is near. You stop asking why and start saying thank you. That shift is spiritual wisdom. That surrender is holiness. That peace is power. There is a generation behind you that does not understand patience. They live in a world of instant gratification. They want everything fast: success, recognition, pleasure. But you have learned the sacred rhythm of waiting. You know that God's timing is never late. You have learned that miracles are born in the soil of delay. You have learned that real strength is not loud. It is steady. You are the teacher of divine timing. You are the living proof that waiting on God never ends in regret. Your later years are not a season of retreat. They are a season of revelation. God reveals things to the mature heart that the young cannot yet bear. He opens your understanding to see the meaning behind your past, to see the divine logic behind your pain, and to recognize the beauty of every unanswered prayer. You begin to see that what didn't happen for you was never rejection. It was protection. That what you lost was not punishment. It was preparation. These revelations come only to those who have walked long enough with God to trust His silence. You have reached a stage where your peace becomes your power. You no longer react to everything. You no longer chase explanations. You have learned that not every battle is yours to fight. You have learned that some victories come not by movement, but by stillness. When you choose peace over reaction, you become a vessel of divine calm. That calm is what the world needs now. That calm is why you are still alive. Because God uses you to demonstrate what true strength looks like. The truth is, age is God's way of revealing spiritual beauty. While the body fades, the soul grows luminous. The deeper your relationship with God becomes, the more radiant your spirit appears. People may see your years, but they feel your peace. They may see your wrinkles, but they sense your grace. The outer shell may change, but the inner light only intensifies. You have become a soul refined by time, and that radiance is why God keeps you. When you pray now, your prayer is no longer filled with demands. It is filled with gratitude. You no longer ask for much. You simply thank God for what is. That kind of gratitude attracts divine favor. Gratitude opens gates that complaints could never open. And as you live with a thankful heart, you begin to walk in quiet abundance. Everything around you may look ordinary, but inside, you carry peace that no wealth can buy. God keeps you alive so that the world can see that peace is the true measure of success. And remember, as long as God wakes you up, He still wants to walk with you. Do not underestimate the mornings you open your eyes and say, "Thank you." Each morning is a divine invitation to continue the conversation you have had with God for decades. You are not forgotten, you are cherished. You are not useless, you are purposeful. You are the continuation of God's faithfulness on display. So carry yourself with quiet dignity. You have nothing to prove, nothing to chase, nothing to fear. You are a soul anchored in eternity, walking through time with grace. The world may move fast, but you move deep. The world may change, but your faith remains the same. And every day you live, heaven records your endurance as worship. You are not living out of habit. You are living out of divine purpose. This is why God keeps you alive after 60, because your life is no longer about ambition. It is about alignment. It is no longer about running, but about resting in God's will. You have become a living psalm, a breathing prayer, a testimony of divine endurance. The world needs to see that kind of life. The life that shines quietly, the life that forgives easily, the life that loves freely, the life that glorifies God in everything. So walk boldly in your remaining days. Speak truth when others hide it. Show kindness when others forget it. Radiate peace when others lose it. For this is your divine purpose now, to reflect the eternal light of God in every space you enter. You are still alive because the world still needs to see what faith looks like when it matures, what love looks like when it endures, and what wisdom looks like when it walks hand in hand with God. There comes a moment in every life, a breaking point. A moment when your hands are trembling, your mind is exhausted, and your heart whispers, I can't anymore, my friend, is where the true power of faith begins. Because when you reach the end of yourself, you stand at the beginning of God. There are burdens that your shoulders were never meant to carry. There are storms that your strength cannot silence. And there are doors that will never open with your human effort alone. You were never meant to do everything on your own. That's why God exists in your life. When you have done all you can and nothing moves, that's not the end. That's the moment to step back and say, God, I give it to you now. When you stop wrestling with what you cannot control, you allow God to move in ways you could never imagine. Many people fail not because they lack effort, but because they don't know when to release what's beyond their reach. You pray, you plan, you fight. But when the door still doesn't open, when the answer still doesn't come, it's not a sign of your failure. It's a sign that it now belongs to God. Faith doesn't mean doing nothing. Faith means doing what you can and then resting, knowing that what you cannot do, God will handle in His time, in His way, and for your good. You see, life becomes heavy when you carry what's not yours to carry. You were never designed to hold every fear, every worry, every outcome in your hands. Some things belong only in the hands of the one who created time, shaped the stars, and breathed life into you. When you try to control everything, you end up controlling nothing. But when you surrender everything, you find peace in everything. The moment you say, God, take this, I can't carry it anymore, heaven begins to move. Many of you have prayed and yet still carry the worry. You say you trust God, yet you stay awake at night rehearsing the problem. You claim to believe in divine power, but your heart is still restless. Listen carefully. Faith is not proven by what you say. It's revealed by what you release. When you truly believe that God can handle what you can't, you don't just talk about trust, you live it. You let go of your grip and allow His hand to take over. You stop trying to fix people, to change hearts, to force outcomes. You stop fighting the wind and instead raise your sail to let God's breath carry you forward. The truth is, sometimes God waits until you let go before He steps in. Because as long as you are still trying to be the solution, He will let you. But when you finally say, God, I surrender, the entire atmosphere around you begins to shift. Suddenly, what looked impossible starts aligning. What looked lost starts returning. What looked dead begins to breathe again. When you give what you can't handle to God, you are not losing control. You are placing it into the hands of perfect control. You may be facing things right now that seem impossible. A situation that's beyond reason, a pain that words can't explain, a door that refuses to open, a person who will not change. You've tried everything, you've cried, you've prayed, and still nothing. My friend, that's not because God has forgotten you. It's because He is preparing something deeper than your request. Sometimes God delays to develop you. Sometimes He waits not because He's denying you, but because He's refining you. And if you keep trying to handle what's meant for Him, you'll block the miracle that's already on its way. When you release your battles into God's hands, peace enters your soul. The things that once terrified you no longer have power over you. Because when God holds the situation, He holds the outcome. Your enemies can't touch what God protects. The storm can't destroy what God sustains. The pain can't last longer than God allows. Everything has a divine boundary when it's in His control. That's why the wisest thing you can ever do is stop fighting battles that belong to God. Stop arguing to prove your worth. Stop running after people who left. Stop worrying about what you can't predict. Lift your eyes and say, God, this is yours. Letting God handle what you can't is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's spiritual maturity. It's understanding that the same God who designed the stars knows how to design your life. You don't have to figure everything out. You just have to keep your faith in the one who already has. When you carry everything in your hands, it breaks you. But when you place everything in God's hands, it builds you. Some of the greatest blessings are not found in fighting harder, but in surrendering sooner. Look around you. So many are anxious, exhausted, broken, because they have made themselves their own gods. They believe everything depends on their effort, their control, their timing. But the more they grasp, the more they lose. Peace never lives in control. It lives in surrender. You can pray all you want, but until you release your fear, you'll never experience peace. God cannot fill hands that are already full of worry. Empty them. Let Him take it. Trust that His plan will always be higher, His timing always wiser, and His path always safer than yours. Maybe you've lost something precious, a relationship, an opportunity, a dream. And you wonder why God didn't stop it. Listen carefully. God never removes without a reason. When He takes something from your hand, it's because He's protecting you or preparing you for something greater. You think it's gone, but God is storing something better in a place you cannot see yet. What you can't handle now, He's already handling in the background. While you're worrying, He's working. While you're waiting, He's weaving the details. While you're crying, He's creating a new path for you. When you let God handle what you can't, you learn to breathe again. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You stop fighting against divine timing. You become still, not because you're passive, but because you know you're protected. You know that what's meant for you cannot be taken from you. You understand that if it's delayed, it's divine. If it's denied, it's direction. God never leaves you with less unless He plans to give you more. There is a peace that enters when you truly say, God, I trust you with what I don't understand. That's the moment anxiety leaves and faith rises. Because faith doesn't mean you understand everything. It means you trust even when you don't. There's a kind of strength that only comes when you've stopped depending on your strength. When you've cried, prayed, and finally said, enough, God, take it. That's when the heavens open. You must learn to recognize when it's time to let go. When you've tried, prayed, and nothing changes, it's not time to push harder. It's time to surrender deeper. There's power in saying, God, I've done my part, now I rest in yours. The greatest miracles come not when we're struggling, but when we're still. Not when we're panicking, but when we're trusting. You may not see the full picture right now, but God does. He sees beyond your confusion, beyond your timeline, beyond your pain. Every unanswered prayer is not rejection, it's redirection. Every delay is not punishment, it's preparation. Every closed door is not abandonment, it's protection. When you believe this, peace becomes your natural state. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, use me. You stop asking, when will it happen? And start saying, whenever you will. That's what happens when you let God handle what you can't. You begin to live free. There are people who are losing their peace because they're trying to control what was never theirs. They're trying to fix hearts only God can heal. They're trying to force opportunities that only divine timing can open. And in the process, they lose their joy. Let go. Let God handle it. You'll be surprised how light life feels when you finally stop trying to carry what doesn't belong to you. There's a quiet strength that appears when you've surrendered everything. You stop running. You stop forcing. You stop worrying. You wake up knowing that the same God who carried you through yesterday will carry you through today. You don't panic at the sight of storms. You rest because you know the one who commands the winds is still in control. Faith means saying, even if I don't understand, I'll trust. It means believing that every loss, every delay, every heartbreak still has purpose. And though your heart may ache, you can still say, God, I know you're handling what I can't. That sentence alone can transform your entire life. Because once you stop controlling, you start growing. Once you stop worrying, you start healing. Once you stop doubting, you start receiving. There is a power that comes only when a soul has reached the end of itself. It is the moment when you've tried everything, said every prayer, fought every battle, and yet nothing moves. That is when your heart whispers, God, I can't do this anymore. And heaven answers, finally, now I can. The divine cannot intervene in a life that refuses to surrender. As long as your hands are gripping the steering wheel, you will keep driving in circles. But the moment you release it to God, the same road that once felt endless suddenly reveals a destination. You see, surrender is not the language of defeat, it is the doorway to divine victory. When you let God handle what you can't, you are not stepping back in fear, you are stepping aside in faith, allowing His perfect plan to unfold without your interference. You must understand that control is an illusion. The more you try to manage everything, the more anxious you become, because life was never designed to obey your command. Only God governs time, only God controls outcomes, and only God determines the right season for your blessing. When you insist on doing what only He can do, you carry a weight too heavy for human shoulders. You were not created to bear that load. You were created to trust. The hands that shape the universe are strong enough to hold your future. The one who made the oceans knows how to calm your storm. The same power that keeps the stars in their place knows exactly where to place you. So stop trying to fix everything in your limited understanding. Instead, kneel in quiet faith and whisper, God, I trust you with what I can't handle. There is a sacred silence in surrender. It is not the silence of despair, but the silence of peace. It is the stillness that comes when you stop wrestling with outcomes and start resting in God's authority. Many people confuse movement with progress. They think that by constantly worrying, constantly talking, constantly planning, they are showing faith. But true faith often looks like quiet confidence. It looks like sitting in the middle of uncertainty and saying, even if I don't see it, I know God is working. The calmest person in the storm is the one who knows who controls the wind. When you let God handle what you can't, you stop living as a victim of circumstance and start living as a vessel of purpose. You begin to see that not everything that hurts you is meant to harm you. Some pain is preparation. Some loss is direction. Some delays are divine. You may not see the full picture yet, but God does. Every tear you've cried has been counted. Every prayer you've whispered has been heard. Every struggle you've faced has been seen. You are not invisible to the one who designed your destiny. And though you may not understand the why, one day you will thank Him for not giving you what you thought you needed, because He was protecting you from what you couldn't handle. There are people who keep asking, why does God allow me to go through this? And the answer is simple. Because He is strengthening what He plans to use. Diamonds are not made in comfort, they are made under pressure. Gold is not refined by ease, it is refined by fire. And faith is not built when everything makes sense, it is built when nothing does. God allows pressure not to destroy you, but to prove that you are built for greater things. You think the delay means He has forgotten, but it actually means He's preparing you for something too powerful to handle in your current form. So when life feels like it's falling apart, maybe it's actually falling into place, God's place. When you let God handle what you can't, you also learn the beauty of patience. The waiting room of life is never empty. It is full of souls being tested in trust. Waiting is not punishment. It's part of the process. God is not just preparing the blessing, He's preparing you to receive it. If He gave you what you asked for too soon, it would crush you, not bless you. But when you wait, when you trust, when you rest, you grow strong enough to carry what's coming. Faith means believing that even in silence, God is speaking. Even in the delay, God is directing. Even in the dark, God is designing. Letting God handle what you can't is also about forgiveness. There are wounds that you cannot heal by holding on. There are people who have wronged you so deeply that no words can undo it. You replay the pain, hoping it will somehow make sense. But it never does. Because forgiveness is not about them. It's about freeing yourself from the chain that ties you to that pain. When you release them to God, you're not saying they were right. You're saying, I trust that God will deal with what I can't. Vengeance belongs to God. Justice belongs to God. Peace belongs to those who leave it in His hands. Letting go of bitterness is one of the most powerful ways of saying, God, you are my defender, not my anger. When you let God handle what you can't, you stop chasing people who are not meant for you. You stop begging for attention, validation, and acceptance from those who were never assigned to understand you. You stop explaining yourself to minds that cannot comprehend your calling. Because when God is guiding you, He will send the right people at the right time. You don't have to chase what's divine. You only have to stay aligned. The moment release who and what was never meant for you, the space they occupied becomes available for God's real blessing. There are times when you feel like you've lost everything. The door closed, the friendship ended, the opportunity vanished. But what if that closed door was God's way of redirecting you from disaster? What if that person's departure was protection, not rejection? What if that failure was a redirection towards something far greater? You may not understand it now, but the God who removes also replaces. He never takes without the intention to restore. You just have to trust His sequence. His timing might feel late to you, but it's perfect in His plan. When you hand over what you can't control, your soul finds rest. You stop trying to predict tomorrow because you know who holds tomorrow. You stop fearing the unknown because you know that nothing is unknown to God. You stop panicking over outcomes because you know that His will cannot be defeated by your worry. That's the secret of peace. Not in getting everything you want, but in knowing that God is guiding everything you need. Faith is not just believing that God can. It's resting in the truth that God will, in His time, in His way. When your faith matures, your language changes. You stop saying, I hope it works out. And you start saying, it's already handled. You stop saying, I'm scared of what's coming. And you start saying, whatever comes, God is with me. That is the language of power. That is the heart of true surrender. It's not about escaping the storm. It's about knowing who controls the sea. There are moments when God will allow you to feel powerless so that you finally realize where true power comes from. You've tried your plans, your wisdom, your timing, and they failed. Not because you're weak, but because God wants to show you that human control has limits, but divine control has none. When you are at your lowest, that's when His strength rises. When you stop trying to force doors open, He starts opening the ones that truly belong to you. Sometimes He lets certain things collapse so that He can rebuild them on a stronger foundation, His foundation. You might not see it yet, but every unanswered prayer is a form of divine protection. Every delay is divine direction. Every loss hides a lesson. When you let God handle what you can't, you become untouchable to despair because you understand that even pain is part of His plan. You no longer ask, why me? You begin to say, thank you, God, for trusting me with this test. Because every test reveals a testimony. And every burden carries the seed of a blessing. Letting God handle what you can't doesn't mean you stop working. It means you stop worrying. You still do your part, but you do it from a place of peace, not panic. You put in the effort, but you don't obsess over the result. You understand that the results are not your responsibility. Faithfulness is. You keep walking, you keep believing, you keep praying, but you stop trying to manipulate the outcome. Because the moment you surrender control, you gain clarity. The truth is, God doesn't need your control. He needs your cooperation. He's not asking you to make it happen. He's asking you to trust that He already has. When you finally understand this, your heart becomes calm even in chaos. You start to see beauty in what once broke you. You start to see peace in what once confused you. You start to see purpose in what once pained you. That is what it means to truly let God handle what you can't. There is nothing that escapes His vision. Nothing you've lost that He cannot replace. Nothing broken that He cannot mend. Nothing delayed that He cannot redeem. Every season has meaning, even the painful ones. The seed buried in darkness doesn't realize it's growing until it breaks the soil. And so are you. You think you're buried, but God says you're being planted. You think it's over, but God says it's only beginning. You think you've lost control, but God says you were never meant to control it in the first place. You must learn to walk in quiet confidence. The kind of confidence that doesn't come from knowing how, but from knowing who. The kind that doesn't depend on plans, but on faith. The kind that says, even when I can't see the way, I know God is making one. Because the path of faith is not straight. It's sacred. It bends and curves according to what you need to learn, not just where you need to go. And when you truly let God handle what you can't, something miraculous happens inside you. Your heart begins to heal. You stop chasing outcomes that were never promised to you. You stop fearing things that were never meant to destroy you. You stop begging for what was never designed to stay. You begin to see that peace is not found in controlling life. Peace is found in trusting the one who controls life. When you let God handle it, the noise inside your mind grows quiet. The storm may still rage around you, but inside you are still, because you know that God is still God. The world teaches you to fight harder, push harder, control more. But God whispers, be still. Not because you're weak, but because strength is born in stillness. The ocean does not create its waves. It receives them from the moon's pool. And in the same way, your spirit must stop forcing and start receiving. Let the rhythm of divine timing move you. Stop worrying about whether you're behind or ahead. God's plan doesn't run on human clocks. What seems like a delay is often His way of making sure the path is safe before you arrive. Sometimes God withholds things you desperately want, not to punish you, but to protect you. You think He's saying no, but He's really saying, not yet. You think He's closing the door, but He's really preparing you for the one that leads to destiny. You see, what you call disappointment, God calls direction. What you call rejection, God calls redirection. No? That broke your heart was necessary to push you toward a greater? Yes. So stop trying to reopen what God has already shut. When you let go of what's behind, your hands are finally free to receive what's ahead. And let me tell you, God doesn't need your help to bless you. He doesn't need your strategies or your anxiety. He needs your faith. He needs your surrender. Because faith is not about manipulating outcomes. It's about trusting divine outcomes. When you stop trying to control how things unfold, you make room for God to surprise you with something better than you planned. Sometimes, what you thought was the end is actually the doorway into a higher chapter. And sometimes what looks like chaos is God's construction site. He's building something powerful, but from the inside out. When you truly give things to God, you stop panicking about tomorrow. You start living in gratitude today. Gratitude is the sign of a surrendered soul. It says, even if I don't have everything I want, I trust that I have everything I need right now. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's working. And when you thank God in the middle of uncertainty, it shows heaven that your faith is not dependent on circumstances. That's when miracles happen, because gratitude opens doors that worry can't. Many people say they trust God, but their hearts are still restless. They pray, but they still panic. They ask, but they still doubt. True faith is when you say, God, even if I don't see the way, I know you are making one. Faith is not a feeling. It's a decision. You decide to trust even when everything in your flesh wants to control. You decide to stay calm even when the future is unclear. You decide to believe that God's silence is not absence. It's preparation. Because when God is silent, He is shaping something sacred. Silence is not emptiness, it's construction. Letting God handle what you can't means learning to rest. Rest is an act of faith. It's saying, I don't have to keep fighting for what's already in God's hands. You can't hear divine whispers when you're shouting over your own fears. You can't see divine direction when you're blinded by anxiety. Rest is where God speaks the loudest. When you slow down, you allow your spirit to catch up with His plan. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Not because you're lazy, but because you trust the one who never sleeps. And when you let God handle what you can't, you start to see your past differently. The things that once broke you now make sense. You begin to realize that every betrayal was protection, every heartbreak was redirection, and every delay was preparation. The moments you thought would destroy you actually built the strength you carry today. God never wastes pain. He transforms it. He turns wounds into wisdom and scars into strength. So instead of asking, why did it happen? Start saying, thank you, God, for showing me I could survive it. That shift in mindset moves you from victim to victor. When you finally let God handle what you can't, you begin to walk with unshakable peace. You stop rushing, stop explaining, stop apologizing for where you are. You realize that divine timing is never late and divine order never fails. You understand that what is meant for you will not pass you by, and what passes you by was never meant to stay. You start to breathe again, not because life got easier, but because you stop trying to be your own savior. There's a freedom that comes when you stop trying to control how others see you. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth when you know that your value was set by the one who made you. The opinions of others lose power over a heart that trusts God. Because when God approves, no disapproval can stop you. When God opens a door, no voice can close it. When God says, it's time, no delay can hinder it. So stop fighting for acceptance. You already have divine validation. Some of you have been praying for years, waiting for a change, and you feel forgotten You wonder if God even hears you. Let me remind you, the silence of God is never the absence of God. He is not ignoring you. He is orchestrating the details. He is aligning circumstances, moving hearts, preparing timing. When you think nothing is happening, heaven is working over time. The blessing that seems delayed is often delayed only because it's still being perfected. When it comes, it will come complete, needing no fixing, no explanation, no repair. God's plans are not fragile. They do not depend on your perfection. They are sustained by His power. So even if you've made mistakes, even if you've stumbled, even if you've lost your way, He can still handle it. Nothing you've done can undo what He has decreed. You can't ruin what God has redeemed. All He asks is that you surrender your guilt, your shame, your regret, and trust that He still knows how to turn your mess into a message. Letting go means saying, God, I can't fix it, but I know you can. And remember this, when you release control, you don't lose power. You gain peace. Because power without peace destroys you, but peace with power strengthens you. The moment you stop trying to control life, you begin to enjoy it. The moment you stop questioning God's plan, you begin to see His beauty in everything. The sunrise feels softer, the air feels lighter, and even in pain, you sense purpose. That's the power of surrender. It transforms how you experience life itself. You cannot carry both faith and fear at the same time. One must live for the other to live. So choose faith. Choose trust. Choose surrender. Tell yourself, I will not worry about what I can't control because I know who controls it. The same God who brought light out of darkness can bring peace out of chaos. The same God who gave breath to dust can breathe hope into your situation. You may not see the evidence, but that's what makes it faith. Faith is seeing with your spirit what your eyes cannot yet behold. There is a quiet revolution that happens in your life when you finally let God handle what you can't. You stop rushing ahead and you start walking with rhythm. You stop talking out of fear and you start speaking out of wisdom. You stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And you start saying, even if it doesn't go my way, I'm still safe in God's plan. You stop trying to prove your worth because you understand that you were already chosen long before you tried to earn it. Letting God handle what you can't also means releasing the illusion of control over the future. You don't have to know how it will happen. You just have to know who's guiding it. You don't have to plan every step. You just have to take the next one in faith. The path will reveal itself as you walk it. That's how divine guidance works. It's revealed progressively, not all at once. God gives you light for the next step, not the whole staircase. Because if He showed you everything at once, you'd either rush ahead or run away. But when you trust Him one step at a time, you walk not by sight but by surrender. My friend, don't let your heart be weighed down by what you can't fix. You've worried long enough. You've cried long enough. You've tried long enough. It's time to release it. Release the fear of failure. Release the pain of the past. Release the weight of the future. Let God handle it. Life was never meant to be a battle of control. It was meant to be a journey of trust. The more you trust, the lighter you walk. The lighter you walk, the farther you go. Because in the end, faith is not about understanding every detail. It's about knowing who holds every detail. It's not about predicting the outcome. It's about trusting the orchestrator. It's not about holding everything together. It's about knowing that the one who holds the universe is holding you too. You can rest now. You can breathe now. God is already handling what you can't. He's handling the people who wronged you. He's handling the doors that closed. He's handling the dreams that faded. He's handling the tears you never spoke of. He's handling the timing you don't understand. And when it's time, He will reveal what He's been preparing all along. You don't have to chase it, it will find you. Because what's divine will never miss its mark. So walk in peace, walk in confidence, walk knowing that every step you take in surrender moves you closer to the life God already prepared. You may not see it now, but one day you'll look back and say, if I hadn't let go, I would have missed this. What you once feared to release will become the very thing that freed you. Because that's how surrender works. It doesn't weaken you, it awakens you. So today, right now, let God handle what you can't. Leave it at His feet. Don't pick it back up. Don't overthink it. Don't argue with divine timing. Just trust that the same God who started your story already knows how to finish it beautifully. Let peace return to your spirit. Let faith rise again in your heart. Let surrender become your strength. For you were never meant to handle everything alone. You were meant to walk with God, trust God, and rest in God. And when you do, you'll discover that the weight you were carrying was never yours in the first place. It always belonged to Him. Stop worrying. Stop pacing the floor at night. Stop replaying every scenario in your mind, wondering if you missed your chance, if you lost your moment, if your future somehow slipped through your fingers. My friend, you are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned in the wilderness of uncertainty. God already chose your doors. Before you ever arrived at the intersection of confusion, before you ever faced the closed gate, before the opportunity ever appeared in front of you, God already chose the door that belongs to you. There are moments when life feels like a hallway filled with locked doors. You try one handle and it doesn't move. You knock on another and no one answers. You pour your energy into one direction and it seems like every step forward is met with resistance. You start to wonder, did I make a mistake? Did I mishear God? Did I go the wrong way? But I tell you this today, not every closed door means rejection. Some doors are closed because they were never yours to open. God already chose the one that will open when the time is right. When you live under divine direction, nothing in your life is wasted. Every detour, every delay, every disappointment is secretly woven into the grand pattern of God's plan. You may think you are lost, but you are exactly where you need to be for God to reveal the next door. The key to peace is not in trying to force doors open. It's in trusting that God already selected the one that will lead you to your destiny. Worry is the language of those who believe they are alone. Faith is the language of those who know that God is working even in silence. When you worry, you are trying to control what only God can orchestrate. You are trying to write a script that has already been written by divine hands. God does not need your anxiety. He needs your trust. God does not respond to panic. He responds to peace. When you rest in His plan, the doors begin to move in your favor. There are people who spend their entire lives knocking on the wrong doors because they are too afraid to wait for the one God chose. They chase approval, positions, relationships, and opportunities that were never assigned to them. And when those doors slam shut, they fall into despair, not realizing that God was protecting them from entering a place that could destroy their peace, their purity, their purpose. Sometimes the door you wanted to open so badly was never meant to lead to your destiny. It was meant to teach you patience. Every closed door has a purpose. Every delay carries divine meaning. When you see nothing moving, it doesn't mean God has stopped working. It means He is positioning everything in the unseen realm for your arrival. God is not random. He is precise. He is intentional. He knows the exact moment your door should open, and no human hand, no demon, no system, no circumstance can shut what God has prepared for you. There are people right now worried about what others are getting. You see someone else's door opening, and you begin to question God's timing for your life. But remember this: just because someone else walked through their door doesn't mean yours is forgotten. The same God who opened their door is the same God who will open yours when your time comes. Don't compare seasons. Don't envy someone else's timing. The door God chose for you has your name written on it. It won't open for anyone else. Sometimes God keeps you in the hallway longer because He is still preparing you for what's behind the door. You may think you are ready, but God sees what you cannot see. He knows that if the door opens too soon, what's on the other side might crush you instead of crown you. So He hides the key until you are strong enough to handle the blessing. The delay is not denial, it's protection. Stop worrying about what you can't control. Stop questioning whether your prayers are working. Every word you've spoken in faith is stored in the heart of God. Every tear you've cried has watered the soil of your destiny. The door you're waiting for is not lost. It's simply under divine timing. When God decides it's time, no obstacle will stand in the way. You won't have to force it. You won't have to manipulate it. The door will open naturally, powerfully, and peacefully. Do you know what happens when you stop worrying? You create space for faith to breathe. Worry suffocates faith. It fills your mind with noise and your heart with fear. But faith whispers, God already chose. Faith tells you that your path is secure even when you can't see it. Faith reminds you that God's choices are always better than your own. You may not understand His ways, but you can trust His wisdom. There's a reason God tells us to be still. Not because He wants us to do nothing, but because He wants us to recognize that He is everything. When you're still, you allow His hand to move. When you stop forcing, you start flowing. God cannot pour His plan into a restless heart. He needs peace to plant His promises. And the moment you surrender your worry, the spiritual atmosphere around you begins to shift. There were times in your life when you thought the end had come, yet somehow you're still standing. That alone is proof that God's hand is on you. If He carried you through the last season, do you really think He will abandon you before the door opens? God doesn't lead you halfway and stop. He completes what He starts. The same God who guided you through the wilderness will walk you through the doorway into your promised place. Many people lose faith right before their door opens. They give up during the final stretch of testing. They allow the waiting to break their spirit. But I tell you this, your door is often closest when the pressure is the heaviest. When the darkness feels overwhelming, that's usually the moment before the light bursts through. The enemy always fights hardest when he knows the door is about to open. Don't collapse at the threshold. Stand firm. God's hand is already on the handle. You must learn to trust God's silence. When you can't hear Him, it doesn't mean He's absent. It means He's working in secret. God doesn't announce every move. He prepares it quietly. Just like a seed growing underground, your door is being built behind the scenes. You won't see the construction process, but one day you will stand before what God created and say, "Now I understand." Stop trying to predict which door is yours. Stop obsessing over what you think should happen. God's doors are not chosen by your logic, but by divine foresight. Sometimes the smallest, most overlooked opportunity becomes the doorway to your destiny. God delights in surprising His people. He hides greatness in places others dismiss. That's why you must stay faithful in the small things. The door you seek might appear where you least expect it. When you live under worry, you live under limitation. Worry keeps you trapped in what-if scenarios. Faith keeps you walking forward even when the path is unclear. God didn't design you to live with tension and fear. He designed you to walk in peace. Every morning you wake up, you have a choice to rehearse your worry or to release it. If you release it, you give God permission to take full control. There are people God is preparing right now who have no idea what's about to unfold. You've been praying, fasting, waiting, and wondering when things will shift. You've felt unseen, unrecognized, forgotten. But what you don't realize is that your name is being whispered in places you've never been. Your door is being discussed in rooms you haven't entered yet. God is orchestrating meetings, aligning hearts, and moving systems in your favor. And when the moment comes, everything will happen suddenly. What took years to understand will come together in an instant. You'll step into the right place at the right time with the right people, and it will feel effortless. Not because of luck, but because it was chosen by God. That is the beauty of divine doors. They don't require you to fight your way in. They open naturally when heaven declares no. So stop worrying about connections, positions, or recognition. The door God chose for you will not require compromise. It will not require you to pretend to be someone else. It will open because you stayed true to who you are in God. There are doors that open through manipulation, but they also close through exhaustion. But when God opens a door, He sustains it. His doors come with peace, not pressure. His blessings add no sorrow. You may not understand why you had to wait so long, why others passed you, why your plans fell apart, but God is building something better. He's not denying your dream. He's refining your direction. You wanted one door, but He's creating a corridor. You prayed for an opening, but He's designing an entire pathway. God doesn't think small. When He moves, He multiplies. The door God chose for you will not just bless you, it will bless others through you. Your testimony will become a doorway for others to find hope. That's why your journey took longer. It wasn't just about you. God was shaping your heart, building your character, preparing your spirit, so that when the door opens, you won't just enter. You'll lead others through. If you only knew how carefully God orchestrates your steps, you would never waste another minute worrying. Every person you meet, every delay you experience, every disappointment you face, it's all connected. God is weaving your story like a tapestry, one thread at a time. You can only see the back right now, full of knots and confusion. But when He turns it around, you'll see the beautiful picture He's been designing all along. The reason worry feels heavy is because it's a burden you were never meant to carry. You cannot control what only God can create. The moment you hand Him your worry, you begin to walk in freedom. You begin to live with a calm assurance that no matter what happens, God's choice for you is perfect. The door may not look like what you expected, but when it opens, it will feel like home. There are seasons when God will close every door just to test your faith. Not because He wants to hurt you, but because He wants to see if you trust Him beyond logic. When you can praise God, even when every door is locked, you activate a dimension of faith that moves mountains. God honors those who believe without seeing. He rewards those who wait without complaining. Your waiting season is not wasted. It is the training ground for your next level. Every time you choose peace over panic, you grow stronger. Every time you choose faith over fear, you build spiritual muscle. When the door opens, it won't just be an opportunity. It will be a promotion of your soul. You'll walk through with wisdom you didn't have before, with strength forged in the fire of waiting. Do not underestimate the power of divine timing. You can be in the right place at the wrong time and miss what was meant for you. But when God aligns your timing with His will, everything flows effortlessly. That's why you must stop rushing. Stop trying to accelerate what God is still preparing. He knows the exact second when your door should swing open. And when it does, it won't just open, it will stay open. God's doors come with divine favor that no man can revoke. You won't have to chase opportunity. Opportunity will chase you. You won't have to beg for recognition. Recognition will find you. You won't have to knock endlessly. The door will unlock itself at your arrival. Because what God chooses, He secures. There is something divine about the quiet seasons of life. The moments when everything seems still, when the phone doesn't ring, when the plans fall apart, and when the future feels uncertain. It's in those moments that God whispers the loudest. When you can't hear noise from the world, you can finally hear the voice of direction from the heavens. The silence is not emptiness, it is preparation. God speaks most clearly when you stop trying to make everything happen on your own. You must understand, God is not delaying you, He is developing you. The same hand that closes one door is the same hand writing your name on another. And when He finishes preparing that door, it will open without your effort, without your striving, without your exhaustion, because it was already chosen for you. There are people who think their future depends on their ability to plan. But no plan can outshine divine orchestration. You can study, you can prepare, you can position yourself. But when the hand of God moves, it moves beyond logic. When His favor decides to lift you, no human plan can explain it. You might not have the qualifications, but God will open the door anyway. You might not have the connections, but God will align the right hearts to favor you. You might not even feel ready, but God will make you ready in the moment. That is the mystery of divine selection. God chooses doors according to His wisdom, not your readiness. Do not be deceived by how things look right now. Just because a door seems locked does not mean it is lost. God sometimes lets you stand before a closed door to test the posture of your heart. Will you complain or will you trust? Will you panic or will you praise? Some of the greatest blessings are released not through striving, but through surrender. When you lift your hands and say, God, I trust your will, heaven begins to move in your favor. Worry keeps you in circles, worship moves you forward. There are two kinds of people in life, those who force doors open and those who let God open them. The first kind often ends up exhausted, disappointed and broken because they entered through what wasn't theirs. The second kind lives with peace because they wait for what's divinely appointed. God's doors are not heavy when He opens them for you. They swing wide with grace. They carry the fragrance of peace, and they bring you into alignment with purpose. If a door brings anxiety, confusion, and chaos, it was likely not God's door. God's doors may require faith, but they never steal peace. You must learn to let go of your own timing. There is a divine rhythm to life that cannot be rushed. When God hides a door, He is protecting your destiny from premature exposure. Some opportunities look shiny, but are filled with traps. Some people appear ready to walk with you, but are secretly carrying poison. That's why God keeps certain doors invisible until your spirit matures enough to recognize what is real. If He opened everything too soon, the weight of the blessing would crush you. Maturity is what makes the miracle sustainable. When you see nothing happening, understand this: God is often working on the other side of the door. You cannot see it, but angels are moving, hearts are changing, and circumstances are aligning. God never forgets His promise. Even if you can't trace His hand, you can trust His heart. The divine doors of destiny are built in secret. While you are in the waiting, God is constructing what your eyes will one day see. Every silent day is a brick in the foundation of your breakthrough. Some of you are standing in front of a door right now that seems impossible to open. Every effort you've made has failed. Every attempt has ended in disappointment. But I tell you, stand still Do not push, do not panic, do not lose faith. That door will not open by human force, it will open by divine command. When God says, no, the lock will fall off, the barrier will disappear, and the opportunity will unfold naturally. What you couldn't do in years will happen in a moment when God releases His favor. You may think you missed your chance, but God does not operate on human calendars. The door He chose for you has no expiration date, no mistake, no failure, no detour can cancel what God has ordained. Even if you took the long road, He can still bring you to the right place at the right time. His timing is not delayed, it is deliberate. The delay is often the disguise of divine perfection. Worry is like sand in the gears of your spirit. It grinds your peace and slows your progress. The moment you let it go, everything begins to move again. Faith lubricates the soul, worry corrodes it. God wants your trust, not your tension. The proof of faith is rest. When you can sleep while the storm rages, when you can smile while others panic, when you can wait without complaining, that is when God knows you are ready for the next door. There are doors that require no effort because they respond to your obedience, not your strength. When your heart is aligned with God's will, even locked gates recognize your authority. The unseen realm knows who belongs where. That is why you never have to beg for what's yours. God already gave you spiritual ownership over the territory of your destiny. When the time comes, you will simply walk into it. God is not just choosing doors for you. He is also removing doors that lead to destruction. Every disappointment you faced was divine protection in disguise. The relationship that ended, the opportunity that vanished, the offer that slipped away, they were all doors that God closed to shield your soul. You may have cried, but one day you will thank Him for every rejection that saved you from ruin. The wisdom of God is greater than the emotions of man. Look at your life for a moment. How many times did you think something was the end, only to later realize it was a beginning in disguise? How many times did a closed door lead you to something far better? That is the fingerprint of God. He leads you through confusion into clarity. What looks like loss is often the path to lasting gain. God is not punishing you, He is preparing you. You are not walking through life randomly. There is a map written by God's own hand that guides your every step. Each door, each delay, each detour is part of that map. You cannot see it yet, but one day you will look back and marvel at how everything was perfectly connected. You will see how every season of silence prepared you for a season of sudden movement. The hand of God has never left you. It has simply been guiding you through shadows so that your faith could grow stronger than your sight. Do not despise the waiting season. It is sacred ground. Waiting is where faith is purified. Waiting is where trust matures. Waiting is where you stop trying to control and start learning to surrender. God doesn't test your patience to torment you. He tests it to strengthen you. Every minute you spend trusting Him builds your spiritual muscle. When your heart becomes still before Him, you become unstoppable. Many people want open doors, but are not willing to carry the responsibility that comes with them. God knows what every door demands. Some doors require humility. Some require discipline. Some require silence. If you are not trained in the waiting, the blessing may become a burden. That is why God prepares you privately before He promotes you publicly. The delay is the classroom of destiny. And remember, your door is not someone else's door. The path God chose for you is unique. Comparison is the thief of confidence. Do not measure your timeline by another's success. You are not behind. You are simply on a different schedule. The sunrise does not compete with the moon. Both shine at their appointed time. Likewise, your door will open when the divine clock strikes your hour. You must learn to discern divine timing. There is a rhythm in the unseen world. When your heart is aligned with God, you begin to sense it. You begin to move not by impulse, but by intuition inspired by God. You stop chasing and start flowing. You stop begging and start believing. That is when life becomes peaceful, even when uncertain. Because you know that every door that is meant for you cannot miss you. Let me tell you this truth. God's doors never require compromise. If you have to sacrifice your values to enter, it is not from Him. If you have to manipulate to make it work, it is not yours. The door God opens will honor your integrity and elevate your spirit. It will stretch you, yes, but it will never stain your soul. You will know it's from Him because it will bring both challenge and calm, a mixture that only divine alignment produces. Sometimes God hides your door behind adversity. He does not place it on the mountain of comfort, but in the valley of testing. He does this so that only those who walk by faith can find it. The doorway to destiny is often disguised as difficulty. Those who run from hardship miss it, but those who stand firm discover it. That is why you cannot curse the challenge. It is often the key that reveals the next chapter of your calling. And when you finally walk through that door, remember, it is not the end, it is the beginning of another journey. God's doors lead to new dimensions, not destinations. He is an infinite creator, and His purpose for you expands with every step of obedience. Each door you pass through is an invitation to trust Him more deeply, to walk more boldly, to live more freely. There will come a time in your life when everything seems still, no messages, no movement, no visible change. You will look around and wonder if God has forgotten you. But that stillness is sacred. It is not the absence of God's activity. It is the quiet before divine acceleration. When God is silent, He is working in ways that your human understanding cannot perceive. The soil may look dry, but the roots are growing deeper. The field may look empty, but the seed is alive. That is how God works. He prepares beneath the surface before He reveals above it. The silence is not punishment, it is proof that something powerful is about to emerge. Stop worrying about when your door will open. The timing belongs to God, not you. Worrying about timing is like trying to control the sunrise. It doesn't matter how long you stare at the horizon. It will appear when it is meant to. You can't rush light. You can only prepare your heart to receive it. So instead of asking, when, start asking, how can I be ready when it comes? Because when your door finally opens, it will not wait for you to mature. It will expect you to already be prepared. Preparation is the secret key that fits the divine door. Sometimes God keeps the door closed until your motives are pure. You may think you are ready, but God looks deeper. He sees the thoughts that are still rooted in fear, ambitions still driven by pride, the desires still shaped by insecurity. He loves you too much to give you something that would destroy you from within. The door is delayed not because you are denied, but because you are being purified. When your heart aligns with His intention, what once seemed impossible will unfold effortlessly. Purity opens what power cannot. There are people who cry out for open doors, but still hold bitterness in their hearts. They want blessings while refusing to release offense. But God cannot pour new oil into a polluted vessel. You cannot walk through divine doors carrying the weight of old wounds. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the spiritual password that grants you access to higher levels. The moment you release resentment, the flow of favor begins again. God doesn't bless a closed heart. He blesses a surrendered one. Do you realize how specific God's plan is for your life? You are not one of many. You are one of one. The door He chose for you was designed before your birth. That means no one else can take it. No imitation can replace it. No competition can cancel it. What is yours is sealed in eternity. Even if others try to block your way, God can shift the entire atmosphere just to make space for you. He can remove people, rearrange systems, and rewrite outcomes to make sure you walk through what He chose. You don't need to chase opportunity when you are chosen by divinity. Worry often comes when we think the outcome depends on our strength. But destiny is not built on human ability. It is built on divine sovereignty. You don't have to control the process. You only need to trust the plan. God is too wise to make mistakes, too intentional to be random, and too loving to abandon what He created. Even when you cannot trace His hand, you can trust His heart. When everything around you feels unstable, His promise remains unmoved. Sometimes God will make the wrong doors look attractive just to see if you've learned to recognize His peace. Not every opportunity that shines is from heaven. Some doors lead to distraction, not destiny. The true door will carry peace, not pressure. It may challenge your comfort, but it will never compromise your character. When it's from God, it won't require manipulation. You won't have to force people to like you or beg for approval. God's favor creates natural alignment. What is meant for you gravitates towards you. If you want to see the power of divine timing, look at nature. The tree does not worry when its leaves fall because it knows spring will come. The river does not panic when it narrows because it trusts the flow. The stars do not argue with the darkness. They simply shine when it is their time. Everything in creation trusts the rhythm of God's design. You are no different. Your life is not out of sync. It is following a heavenly pattern. You may not see the full picture, but the hand of God never loses control. There are moments when God will let you knock and hear knocking. It's not to discourage you. It's to refine your persistence. Faith must grow strong enough to withstand silence. You cannot expect every door to open immediately. Some require endurance. When God sees that your trust can outlast disappointment, He knows you are ready for greater responsibility. Waiting teaches you what instant results never can. It teaches you dependence on God alone. You must understand that the door God opens will demand a version of you that worry cannot produce. Worry drains your spiritual energy, but faith multiplies it. Worry makes you reactive, but faith makes you proactive. Worry ties you to fear, but faith anchors you in purpose. The person who walks through the door of destiny must be grounded in peace, not panic. That is why God allows certain storms to train you to remain calm in chaos. The peace you practice in the hallway will sustain you in the palace. Sometimes the very things you fear losing are the things standing in the way of your door. God may have to remove people, dismantle plans, or disrupt your comfort to make you ready for greater things. Do not mourn what God removes. He never takes without intending to replace. You cannot hold on to the past and reach for the future at the same time. Release what was and watch how He reveals what's next. The letting go is often the opening key to your next level. When God has chosen your doors, even detours are part of the design. You may think you've taken the long way, but He often leads through wilderness before revealing the promise. The wilderness is not punishment, it's preparation. It's where you learn to depend on His voice, not human validation. It's where you discover that even when no one believes in you, God's choice remains unchanged. The wilderness doesn't delay destiny, it builds it. You will know you are close to your divine door when the pressure increases. Just before the breakthrough, everything will try to distract you. Doubt, fear, exhaustion, people, even opportunities that look right but feel wrong. That is the final test. Can you remain still in the middle of the noise? Can you stay focused when everything around you seems uncertain? If you can stand in peace during the storm, the door will open right in front of you. God doesn't reveal glory to a restless heart. He reveals it to one anchored in trust. Never underestimate what God can do suddenly. Years of waiting can turn into moments of manifestation. The door you have been praying about for seasons can open in one day. But you must be found faithful in the small things. The same God who tests you in the hallway is the same God who honors you at the doorway. When the door opens, it will not only bless you, it will prove that waiting was never wasted. God never forgets the faithful. He sees every time you chose peace over panic, every time you prayed instead of complained, every time you believed when logic told you to quit. None of that was in vain. Each act of trust was building a spiritual foundation strong enough to handle the blessing that's coming. You are not waiting for something ordinary. You are waiting for something divine. And divine things require divine timing. There will be days when it feels like the entire world is moving forward except you. Do not be deceived by appearances. While others may seem ahead, their paths are not your path. The door God chose for you is not in competition with anyone else's. It will open when it is meant to. And when it does, everything that seemed delayed will suddenly make sense. God's timing will redeem every year you thought you lost. One moment of divine favor can restore what decades of effort could not. Worry is the weapon of doubt, but peace is the proof of faith. When you choose peace in the midst of uncertainty, you declare that your life belongs to a higher plan. You declare that you trust the unseen more than the visible. That is the highest level of spiritual maturity. To rest when nothing makes sense. The heart that rests in God becomes unstoppable because it no longer draws strength from circumstance, but from divine assurance. And when that door finally opens, and it will, you will understand why it had to take so long. You will see that every closed door was redirecting you. Every delay was refining you. Every silence was strengthening you. God was not ignoring you. He was preparing you for a level of blessing that required a deeper foundation. The door was never late. It was right on time according to eternity's clock. So, keep walking, keep trusting, keep believing. You are not lost. You are being led. You are not waiting. You are being prepared. The door is not hidden. It is being perfected. The one who chose your doors has not changed his mind. What he said will happen will happen. What he began, he will complete. And when it all unfolds, you will realize that the greatest miracle was not the door opening, but the transformation that happened inside you while you waited for it.